Hello, my dear students of 6th standard. Welcome back to your next session on Unit 7. So, in the previous session, we actually did the prose and the poetry part of Unit 7 and we learned about bravery of Neeraja Banot, and we actually came to know, we learned a little on her life, where she studied, what her parents did, and how she came to work as an air hostess or a flight attendant, and her act of bravery, right? So in this session, as I said, we are going to discuss the question and answers for the prose and the poetry, and also the exercises relating to your grammar. Okay, so let's start. Let's take up the questions. The first question is here. It's to let's listen. Okay, so you already read the lesson. Now we're going to answer the questions. Okay, who is the air hostess mentioned in the report? Who is the air hostess mentioned in the report? It's Neeraja Banot. Right? That is the figure. So it is Neeraja Banot. Who honored her? The government of India. The Indian government honored her. Third question. Why was she honored? She was honored. Neeraja Banot was honored for her act of bravery. Right? Who hijacked the plane? A group of terrorists hijacked the plane, right? Okay, so this is, you just have to answer these questions probably in a phrase or two. So that's about it. Okay. Now read the lesson and find answers for the following questions. Okay. First one. Who were Neeraja's parents? Neeraja's parents were Rama Banot and Harish Banot. Right? So Harish Banot was a journalist in a Mumbai-based firm. So second one, when did she join Pan Am Airlines? Neeraja Banot joined Pan Am Airlines in 1986. So how did Neeraja die? Neeraja died in a brave act of saving the children that were attacked by the terrorists who were shooting at them. Right? Next set of questions. Where did Neeraja study? C1. Where did Neeraja study? Neeraja studied in Sacred Heart Senior Secondary School, that's in Chandigarh. She also studied in Bombay Scottish School, that's in Bombay. And she did her college in St. Xavier's College, Mumbai. Right? Now Mumbai, then Bombay. Number 2. Why was the flight described as ill-fated? The flight was described as ill-fated because it was the flight that was actually hijacked by the terrorists, right? And it so happened that many people lost their lives, including Neeraja Banot. Number 3. Name the highest civilian award for bravery given by the Indian government. What is the highest civilian award for bravery given by the Indian government? It is the Ashoka Chakra. So, the highest civilian award for bravery given by the Indian government is Ashoka Chakra. Name the flight that was hijacked. When and where did this happen? The flight that was hijacked was called the ill-fated Pan Am Flight 73. That was actually headed to New York from Mumbai on the way to Frankfurt, but it landed in Karachi at 5 a.m. which started from Mumbai, and it was then when it was landed in Karachi airbase, that is the tarmac or the runway. That's when the terrorists actually they disguised themselves as passengers and they hijacked the plane. Who did the terrorists shoot first? The terrorists or the hijackers, they immediately shot dead a passenger who was later on to be identified as a American citizen. Sixth, what did the pilot, co-pilot and the flight engineer do when they heard about the hijack? Do you think they were right in doing so? So, when the flight was hijacked and Neeraja came to know that the flight was hijacked, she immediately went to the cockpit where the pilot, the co-pilot and the flight engineer were, and she informed them that the plane was hijacked. So, since the flight was in a landed position, that's in a runway, so these cockpit crew, the so-called pilot, co-pilot and the flight engineer, they heard the news. Immediately they escaped, right? They escaped from the flight. So if you all don't know how an airplane looks, let me just give you a quick example with a picture how the airplane seating arrangements are done and how the aircraft is so much different from where the passengers sit is so much different from where the cockpit crew sit. Have you ever seen the picture of an aircraft flight, my dear students? Let me just take you to a quick glance of it, okay? Just hold on with me. So, my dear students, that's how a cockpit would look like. You could have a pilot and a co-pilot. Generally, a pilot is one who is actually the chief pilot who is in charge of the aircraft. And there is an assistant who is a co-pilot who is assisting the pilot. And in the case of Pan Am, there was also a flight engineer. Okay. So let me just take you to a quick glance of how the passengers are seated in a flight. There, that's how a seating arrangements of the passengers would be. So one end of the aircraft in the front would be the cockpit where the pilot would be seated, and behind them all these passengers are seated, and beyond that would be the restrooms and the washrooms. Okay, so let me just take you to see how a runway would look like. Okay, this is how a runway would look like. Okay, the flights come here and they just go. When they're on a runway, they speed up and they take off from like this. This is a runway. There are so many runways actually in the airport. When you see there were so many flights taking off, so that's how a runway would look. That's a little glimpse of how a runway would look like. It's just like a normal road where there are markings, and it's a huge strip of a road where the flights can speed up and try to take off. Okay, so let's go back to the questions now. Okay, so we're done with the sixth question. Seventh one. Did Neeraja hide the passports of the Americans? Why not? Yes, Neeraja actually hid the passports of the Americans. What did the hijackers do? As soon as they the terrorists hijacked the flight, they actually asked the flight attendants to collect all the passports of all the passengers, and they wanted to be given all the passports of the Americans because they were targeting the American citizens there. But Neeraja, being brave, she actually hid 40 and odd passports of the Americans on board the passengers, and she tried to save them. Right? Next. Eighth question. Why is Neeraja called the heroine of the hijack? So, after listening to the whole lesson, what do you think? Why do you think Neeraja was called the heroine of the hijack? Neeraja was called the heroine of the hijack because even after the pilot, the co-pilot and the flight engineer, they escaped by listening, by hearing the fact that the flight was hijacked. She took up responsibility for all the passengers in the flight. She, in the process, saved many passengers' lives, and herself, she died by protecting many children from the spree of bullets that was shot by the terrorists. So she is definitely called the heroine of the hijacks, and she deserved a Ashoka Chakra for her bravery. Right? Number 9. What is your ambition in life? Do you want to become an air hostess or a co-pilot, or a pilot or a flight engineer? So, my dear students, this is a very personal question that needs your opinion and your analysis on the question. So, what is your ambition in life? What do you want to become when you grow up? So, do any of you all have the ambition of becoming an air hostess or a pilot or a flight engineer? So, you can put up your own answers in a couple of sentences and write down your answers. Okay. C2. Arrange the following sentence in an order to make a meaningful paragraph. So there are a few sentences that are given. There are a set of 6 sentences that are given to you. So you will have to arrange them in a manner, in a fashion that it makes sense. It makes a meaningful paragraph. Let's see. Okay. The first one would be Neeraja was the senior flight purser on Pan Am flight which was hijacked at Karachi airport. Next. Okay, after 17 hours, number 1, after 17 hours, the hijackers opened fire and set off explosives. Neeraja comforted the passengers, especially the elderly and the small children. Acting quickly, Neeraja opened the emergency door and helped a number of passengers escape. Right? Or even before that, this could be she hid the passport of Americans as hijackers wanted to execute Americans. And lastly, it would be Neeraja laid down her life while saving hundreds of others. So you can put these sentences in a order that it makes sense and make a paragraph. Which of the following statements are true about Neeraja? Tick them. Neeraja was the senior most cabin crew on the aircraft. Now she was actually she was the senior most cabin crew. No, the pilot would be the senior most cabin crew, but in his absence, she took up the responsibility. No, Neeraja was not the senior most cabin crew on the aircraft. Neeraja escaped from the flight when the terrorists opened fire. False. She showed the passports of all passengers to the hijackers. False. She received the Ashoka Chakra award for her act of bravery from the Civil Aviation Minister. No, false. She received the award from the Indian government, not the ministry. C4. Write a short paragraph in your own words about Neeraja. So I have already explained the whole lesson to you. So it should be very easy for you to put in your own words of answer for this question C4. Okay. C5. Which of the following words are related to airport, flight? Circle them. Crew, yes, it's related. Driver, no. Runway, yes. Kidnap, no. Check-in, yes. Pilot, yes. Air hostess, yes. Cabin, yes. Cockpit, yes. Overtake, no. There's no overtaking in flights. Hijack, it's not related to airport as such, but if it is asking you if it is related to this particular lesson and the air flight, maybe yes. But airport and flight in the sense, no. Traffic police, no. Depot, no. Emergency door, yes. Okay. Now it is the practice of language. Let's practice language. Find the other forms of the following words from the lesson and write them in the box. So there is the present form that is given to you. So you need to write the past form. That's the past tense form. So they have two boxes. So let's see. Die, the past tense is die is died. Hijack, hijacked. Join, joined. Land, landed. Present form of go is went. Take, took. Shoot, shot. Is, was. So think of a few more words as above and write their past tense forms. You can refer a dictionary. So this is very easy. You can pick any word and try to make the present tense and past tense of those words. Okay. So pick any words and try to make present and past tense of the words. So this is how you learn languages, my dear students. So you pick up some words and write their present form and try to write their past form. Okay. Moving on. Next. Some words are missing in the following sentence. Add those words and complete the sentence. One word is missing in each sentence. For example, Neeraja was not a brave woman. So what is the word that is missing here? Was. Neeraja Banot was a brave woman. Was is a verb. So a sentence would not make a complete sentence if the noun, verb are not, noun, verb and adverbs and adjectives are not there in their complete form. So the word that is missing here is was. Okay. Second one. Neeraja Banot born in Chandigarh. Neeraja Banot was born in Chandigarh. Second one. Rama Banot and Harish Banot, her parents. Rama Banot and Harish Banot were her parents. Third. She the senior most cabin crew member. She was the senior most cabin crew member. 4. Neeraja, the passport of the American passengers. Neeraja hid the passports of American passengers. 5. She not escape. She did not escape. 6. She was youngest recipient of the Ashoka Chakra. She was the youngest recipient of the Ashoka Chakra. So did you see, my dear students, how one word, if it is missing, the sentence would not sound like a complete sentence. So a sentence has to sound complete in the form that it has to have all its word forms. The nouns, the verbs, adverbs, adjectives, all of them, prepositions, conjunctions, all of them should be in its proper form, right? Next, moving on. Make sentences using the word from the box. An example has been given. It's very simple. You just have to pick the word and make a sentence out of these words. Any sentence that you like. Can. What sentence can you make out of can? I can ace the test. I can come first in my exams, right? We are going to go to school, right? Has. It has been declared by the Indian government or the Karnataka government that schools will be going to open soon. What else? There are many things. You can just make your own words of all these things. Visited. I visited my grandmother last summer. Cook. I help my mother cook at home. Right? So make your own sentences. I want you all to make sentences. If you like, make more than one sentences if you want to. That's how you learn a language. So make your sentences, and for each and every word like this, you need to make your own sentences. Okay, so that is with the language part of it. Now let us move on to the poem questions. What are the poem questions, my dear students? Okay, preparatory activity. It has a few questions. Write the names of the professions. So my dear students, before I go into this thing, so the reason that I am doing this is assuming that you have already attempted to do your answers, right, for the question. That's what I told you in the first session. You cannot copy down the answers that comes out of my mouth. You should have attempted to write these answers yourself, okay? And this should be just a cross check of your answers if they are correct, okay? So you should not be doing this now. You should have already done this by now, okay? Okay, let's move on. The first one, a person who mends shoes. So you have to name all these professions. What are they called? People who carry on these professions, what they are named as, okay? A person who mends shoes, he's a cobbler. A person who stitches clothes, he's a tailor. A person who makes ornaments, he is a blacksmith or a jeweler, okay? A person who represents people in court, lawyer. You all know that. A person who works in the field, the great farmer. It's the farmer that we are, it's because of the farmers that we all are having a good life today. So we should be really thankful to the farmers. Next, a person who sells fruits and vegetables is called a shopkeeper or a vegetable vendor or a fruit vendor. Okay. So, B. Do you know any other profession? Write them down and discuss the nature of work. So, it is very easy. So, you can write down any other profession that you know and write down the kind of work that they do. Okay. Number 2, it is said the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. Do you agree with this? Discuss your views in groups and present them to the class. So, what do you think? The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. So, do you think the statement is correct? If it is correct, put down your arguments why it is correct. If it is not correct, you can put down your arguments yourself. So, you can argue for it or you can argue against it. So, in my opinion, you cannot clear-cutly say that rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. It could be, it is true to some extent and it is also not so true. Why it is true? Because, people, the poor people, like the people who do the menial jobs, the lower jobs, they are being exploited by the richer people. They are being paid less for their work and the rich people are actually amassing a lot of wealth by taking advantage of the poor people. That's why you can say the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And on the other hand, I would say it is not completely true, because if you really want to do something in life, if you have a set focus and set aim in life to achieve something in life, you can do it, right? So like we discussed in the other chapters, so you focus your life's aim to become rich, you can become rich. You can earn a lot of money. You can be a wealthy person if you really actually set your mind towards it. So it can be both ways, but mostly so in and around us, we see a lot of people, a lot of innocent people who work, who do the low jobs, the menial jobs, are being exploited by the rich people because they're not being paid very well. Okay. Next, moving on. Let's take up the questions for this poem part. Who are referred to as they in the poem? Who are referred to as they in the poem? Here, the poet, Dr. Siddhalingaya, refers to they in the poem. They are the people who do the lesser known jobs, but are very hard working, but very hard jobs, right? These people are poor people. They are lesser born. So these are the people that the poet is actually fighting for. Okay. They weave cloth, but they go naked. What does this line mean? This means people who weave clothes themselves, the weavers themselves don't have so much money. They weave clothes, but they don't have enough money for themselves to buy decent clothes. They go naked because they don't have enough money. They're not being paid well for their job, for the work that they do. So that is what it means. Number 3. Why do these people sigh? These people sigh, have a deep sigh. It is in the paragraph where it is in the first, second, third, fourth paragraph. They come home empty-handed. They heave a deep, deep sigh. They live in misery, my people. They heave a deep, deep sigh because they are so tired of working all day through, and all that they get is very little amount of money, which doesn't take them through a day's meal, or which doesn't take them through a decent clothes that they could buy, or a proper home for their life. So that's why they heave a deep, deep sigh with misery and tiredness. Number 4. Who does the poet refer to as God-loving men? What do? The God-loving men here the poet referred to as, they are the rich people. They are the people who hire these my people that he talks about. They hire these people. They are the rich people who actually, they proclaim themselves to be God-loving. They love God, but they do not show gratitude even to the poor people, the people who are in need of money, who are in need of food, clothes, and a proper house. But they declare themselves as God-loving. But they do not do anything much for the needy. Number 5. Is the poet sympathetic to them? How do you know? Is the poet sympathetic to the my people? Yes. Poet is very sympathetic to the my people, because these are the poor people who work very hard in the sun and in all the dirt and the dust, but they do not get enough money, or they do not have proper house to live. They constantly live under debts, right? And they sometimes take their own lives because they cannot repay these debts back. They constantly are into the vicious cycle of making these debts over and over again, right? And they're always poverty ridden. C2. Discuss in small groups and answer the following. Who is the speaker in this poem? Who is talking about? Who is he talking about? The speaker in the poem is the poet himself. And who is he talking about? He is talking about the people, that he's talking about my people, his people that he calls. They are the people who work hard outside in the sun, in the dirt, in the sand, in the dust, but they are paid very less by these rich people. Number 2. What, as mentioned in the poem, are different activities done by them? As mentioned in the poem, the different activities that they are done by them are the mason's job. They carry stones for the buildings, right? And they dig. They are miners who dig gold out of the land, gold and iron maybe. These are the miners. And they plow the fields. They could be the people who are working in the farm. They build shops and big buildings, right? They are these people who work in the construction site, right? These are the number of jobs that these people do. Why does the poet have sympathy towards these people? Like I already said, he sympathizes greatly with these people because they are the ones who are doing all the job. They are the ones who are making things happen. So the shops are built, the buildings are built, the crops are grown, right? The gold is being dug out, right? They're doing all the hard work and they're not given enough money for their hard work, right? These people are not paid well enough. So he's very sympathetic towards them. And because they're not paid well enough, they get into debts. And they don't have proper homes to stay. They don't have proper food to eat, right? So he's very sympathetic towards them. So number 4, isn't it a pity that some people build the shops but get into heavy debts? How does this happen? Yes, it is a pity. people who work, they build big buildings. You see so many people, these construction people who are building buildings, they're working in this construction sites. They're not really rich. They work for the day's job. They work for the day's labor. But even though they build big buildings, they know how to build. They don't have money themselves to build their own houses, to live in proper homes, and they get into debts because they don't have proper food to eat. So they need to live. So the money that they get from the hard work is not enough. So what do? They get into debts, and they're constantly into debts because they cannot repay the debt back because they're getting very less amount of salary or the money that they work for. So, number 5, what do you think should be done to solve the miseries of these people? So, what do you think should be done to solve the miseries of these people, my dear students? There should be set wages. The government should set wages, right, for these people. So, there should be proper minimum wage policy where the rich people cannot exploit these people. So, there should be minimum wage policy for the people who work in these in this menial jobs, not menial, but these hard-working jobs like in the fields, the construction sites, the mining sites, right? So, next one. They're asking you to have a debate on the following topic. Poverty is the cause of all crimes in society. So, do you agree? So, to an extent, it is right. Poverty could be the cause of all the crimes in the society. If not all the crimes, poverty could be the cause for the crimes in society, because people are poor, they go hungry, they don't have food to eat, and they're ready to work hard, but the kind of money that they get from working hard is not enough. So they're constantly into debts. So where are they going to get the money from? So what are they going to do? They go and what do they do? The last resort would be, some people will resort to going and actually stealing, right? Stealing and doing other sorts of crimes to satisfy their hunger. Yeah. Next, let's appreciate. Select and write the 5 most important words from the poem. Say why you chose those words. So, you write the 5 most important words that you like from the poem, and you give your own answers why you like those words. Okay? Number 2, play the role of the poet and talk about the poem. I'm sure you can do it. So I've already explained the poem to you. So you play the role of a poet and talk about the poem, okay, in your own words. Next, interview the poet. So one of you all can take the role of the poet and the other the interviewer. This is like interviewing the poet. You can do the interview, right, as a journalist. So try doing that. Okay, there is a original form of the poem that was written in Kannada. This is by Dr. Siddhalingaya, and this has been translated, right? So it's been translated in English for you because this is your English lesson. So you all know Kannada, you can go through it in Kannada, okay? Now, there's a little about the poet, Dr. Siddhalingaya. He was a professor of Kannada in Bangalore University, and he was a major poet of Kannada literature. And he actually wrote many poems voicing his opinion on the Dalits. So he's a major supporter of the Dalits. And he set a very good trend in writing these kind of poems by addressing their miseries, by addressing the miseries of the Dalits in his poems or in his work. So some of his literary works are Hole Madigana Hadu, okay, that's one of the collections of Dr. Siddhalingaya's poems that he wrote in 1975. And some of his other works are Orukeri, that's also been translated into English, and many of his other poems are also translated in English. Not only poems, his work. Okay? Okay, so let us end here with a note by W.B. Yeats. Yeats says, education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. So what does this say? Education is not what you amass, what you get from it, what you give, right? It's also what you give. Don't just keep the knowledge that you have gained. Always try to share the knowledge. Not only knowledge, anything. Try to share, you get more, right? So especially in knowledge, in education, you need to share it. You share it and you get more, right? So with that note, I'm going to end our session here. So hopefully you all are clear about the whole lesson and the poem part, and also clear with your question and answers and your exercise part. Okay, my dear students, take care, work hard. I'm sure things are turning to be really positive. Vaccinations are out. In no time, your schools are going to reopen. So try to prepare yourself to go to school. Try to be safe. Try and see how you can be safe and you can go back to school in a safe manner, because it's time we went to schools and did our learning, did our education, because online education cannot continue for long. This is not the way to learn anything. You need a proper atmosphere of the school to learn things. You cannot sit in your homes and learn through your laptops or your phones, right? So it's a good start. I think your schools will reopen soon. Okay, my dear students, I will take leave of you all and I'll see you all with the next chapter in the next session. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.